Hey, it's Mark, Moody Miles, Bikes and Trikes. It's supposed to be a group ride today, but turned out it's not, so here I am. We are in Harrison, and the ride today is to Plummer. We're just on the edge of some really beautiful scenery here. And we got our trusty steed, nice Sprint X, ready to go. So, it's good to ride with people. Sometimes it's good to ride by yourself. So we're taking option B and just out here admiring and praising God for all his creation, because it is quite spectacular out here, and to have a smooth paved bike trail to ride on, wow, what a blessing. Look at this. Amazing. Tater TOT has been quite the experience. Pretty much everything I thought it would be. Friendly people, lots of different trikes. I got to share this whole thing with my wife, who is not a rider, but we got her on one of Dan Zimmerman's trikes. Dan is the founder of Spokes Fighting Strokes. You can look up his story online. I'll link his website in the description. But we got her, my wife, on one of his trikes. And you have to, next thing I'm going to tell you, you have to take in context. This girl has never ridden a trike before and is not a cyclist. And she rode 22 miles yesterday with no motor. Just unbelievable. And it was so much fun to have her with me. She likes to walk for fitness. So since we've been on this trip, I do my rides, she goes out and walks. We both take pictures and video and compare notes at the end of the day. But to be out there together, and I must have heard her say 20 times, this is awesome, because we were on one of the more scenic parts of the trail. We left from Kellogg, went in the direction of Bull Run. I can't tell you exactly where we turned around 9 miles outside of Kellogg, I guess. But we went far enough that she got to really appreciate the beauty of the trail. So that was one of my goals on this trip, to get her on a trike. And I do not believe in trying to force people to do things they don't want to do. So I thought she would enjoy it. And the only thing I was adamant about was that she try it once. You know, with no expectations. She was worried about going slow and holding me up. And I told her, when I go out to ride with you, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going out to ride with you. That's what I want to do. And we went slow, and she found her pace and learned how to use the gears. And I got what I needed, which was to remember to slow down on a bike or a trike and just enjoy the moment. And I did. Speed was irrelevant. So I do enough fast riding. But to share that with her, man, we've had so many good experiences on this trip. It's hard to say this was the best or that was the best, but that day yesterday is definitely in the conversation for the best part of the trip. So much so that when I was packing up to ride today, I got kind of a funny feeling in my stomach, like I was going to miss having her with me. Even though I've only ridden with her once, but it was a blast. So there was a group here, and they just kind of took off, and here I am. I'm sure I'll see him somewhere along the way, but I'm not doing the chase down today. I'm just going to enjoy the trail. If I see him, I see him. If I don't, I don't. Nice foliage on the side of the trail. Beautiful water scene on the right. Man, oh man. What do you say? Look at that. All right, we are approaching this bridge into Plummer. I didn't check mileage before I left, so I had no idea what we were in for. Just coming up on 6 miles in, and this is some of the most spectacular scenery. Hard to put it into words. Maybe sometimes you don't have to, you just take it in. So this ends part 1 of the trip, Harrison to Plummer, outbound. The next video will show the inbound trip. We end this one with just some beautiful scenes of Lake Coeur d'Alene, the surrounding area. So thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you'll know when new videos come out. And we will see you in the next one.